Hey, good morning. Welcome to another edition of Morning Scone. Glad to have you aboard with us. As always, we're presented by Boudreaux's, great Louisiana company. Y'all check them out. BoudreauxMix.com. You can pick it up at great local retailers like Calandro's, Calvin's, Alexander's, and if the place where you shop does not carry Boudreaux's, then by all means, make them. A couple of things I want to talk about this morning. One of them, actually both we briefly touched on during AFR yesterday, but honestly, both kind of developed as the show was going on, so I want to go a little deeper. Justin Pate, good morning. Greg Lane, good morning. Kelly Davis, good morning. Thanks for being here. Appreciate y'all for watching every day. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take my... Nick, what's up, dude? I am going to take my own advice. I'm going to hit the share button, as I do and encourage you to always do. It's super duper helpful if you would hit the share button. So, boom. I've just shared it from my page to my timeline. All right, so let's get into this. Laramie, good morning. Brent, good morning. Michael Moscona, what's up, cuz? Have a good day, man. Appreciate y'all for being here. Robbie Compton, good morning. Good morning. All right, so let me get into a couple things. We talked yesterday a little bit about Kristian Fulton. And if you don't know the backstory, Kristian Fulton was the number one cornerback in the country in 2016, coming out of Rummel. Actually got to see him play in the state championship game against Catholic. The game Catholic beat Rummel. Fulton was a senior in that game in the Dome. And he played 3 games his freshman year, broke a finger, and sat out the rest of the season, but he burned a year of eligibility. Oddly enough, with the NCAA redshirt rule that passed yesterday, under that, Fulton would have been able to redshirt and gotten that year back. Not in this case that it would have mattered entirely, but it's kind of what it is. The really interesting thing with the whole Kristian Fulton case is he sat out all of last year, and he, according to NCAA rules, has to sit out this year as well for attempting to cheat on a drug test. We've known publicly very little about this story from the beginning, but Ross Dellenger did an extensive piece on it for SI. And before I talk any more about this, I want to, something I talk about a lot is just the state of journalism, especially in sports, but really all over our country. And the advent of social media and things like that have changed the game. Whereas most outlets don't hire enterprise reporters. They don't hire long feature writers because typically long feature pieces take a lot of time to organize, to publish, and generally don't have the payoff. For a .com, you're getting paid by a click, and so it's basically what's going to drive clicks, and it's volume of stories, and sometimes it's a lot of salacious headlines and things like that, and it's not necessarily things that carry journalistic integrity. I'll give you an example of something yesterday that became news. Bryce Harper. There was an NL executive that was granted anonymity speaking about Bryce Harper, and basically just crushed Bryce Harper for is not a great teammate, and that you said they wouldn't pay him big money. Okay, that's not news. That's giving an executive, an unnamed executive, an anonymous Twitter account, basically. That's what that is. You gave them a platform to anonymously crush somebody. If that person had gone on the record saying, my team X will not sign Bryce Harper in free agency, but that's newsworthy. But what happened wasn't that. And that's unfortunate because that happens all too much, and it's just on to the next thing. So similarly, this has kind of happened with Kristian Fulton. We knew he wasn't there, kind of knew he had failed a drug test, didn't know the whole story. Well, Ross Dellenger is really good at what he does. I mean, he's fantastic. I wish LSU fans understood how good Ross is at his job, in part why he got the SI gig. Ross has spent a lot of time investigating this Kristian Fulton story. And lo and behold, what happened is Kristian Fulton going into last season was randomly picked to take a drug test for the NCAA. Now, the NCAA does not test for marijuana. They test for performance enhancers. Kristian Fulton admits he had smoked weed 2 days before and was afraid he was going to fail the test. So he tried to use a false sample. He had a vial of urine that he was going to pour, a cup of urine he was going to pour into the vial, and he got caught doing it. And in essence, he dumped that out and used his own urine, passed the test. So he was not on steroids. He had smoked weed 2 days before, which the NCAA did not test for. was not on performance enhancers, but because he falsified the test, he was caught trying to falsify the test. He was popped with a 2-year suspension according to NCAA rules. The kind of amazing thing is like it literally, according to this, would have been better for Kristian Fulton to use steroids and fail the test legitimately, and he would have gotten a 1-year suspension. He'd be playing right now. And to me, it's kind of an instance of punishment doesn't fit the crime, man. Especially considering the guy passed the test. And he's got an attorney now, and they're filing one more appeal with the NCAA. They're hoping the NCAA reopens the case, which the NCAA doesn't have to do. But they're filing, according to his attorney on Ross's story, on 3 fronts. The absence of due process. Essentially, they're saying that Fulton should have been able to appeal before the suspension was handed down, which he wasn't. The lack of drug testing education given to Fulton. Essentially, they're saying had Fulton known that they weren't testing for marijuana and that had he cheated, it would have been a 2-year ban. There's no way he would have cheated, obviously, because even if he had smoked or even if he had used performance enhancers, he would have just had a positive test and been suspended 1 year as opposed to the 2. And then the third is they hope to present new evidence calls into question the credibility of the drug testing procedure. So I know that's a lot of jargon, but essentially what they're saying is that the lab, the lab that tested didn't have. I'm trying to see exactly how Ross phrased it because he quoted the lab. It's like the proper chain of distribution, something like that. Essentially, how the Fulton sample got from Fulton and the NCAA representative to the lab didn't follow the proper protocol. So essentially, it could have been tampered with, which it didn't, but it could still, falsify the test or invalidate the test. Anyway, bottom line is this, and this is what I have a really tough time with. And Ross quotes several Division I coaches who said they had no idea this rule even existed. So if Division I coaches didn't even know the rule existed, how could an 18-year-old who's scared he's about to get popped for a test know the rule? I mean, I guess I have a lot of sympathy, and I'm going to be very much in favor of things that chain of custody. Thank you, Anthony. That's what it is, chain of custody. I'm going to be in favor of things that help student athletes. In the grand scheme of the NCAA, it's gigantic business, and a lot of adults have capitalized on the backs of young people. And I'm not saying that young people get nothing, right? They get a free education, they get housing, they get free medical, they get free food. Like, I'm not saying that's bad. Their gig is bad at all. Okay, do not misunderstand me. But I am in favor of rules that are going to benefit young people. And for me, the hardest part about this is watching guys like Jeffrey Simmons from Mississippi State beat the hell out of a woman on video and miss 1 game. And it wasn't even a mandated suspension. The school decided to sit him for 1 game, and he gets to go on playing. Luke Heimlich, the pitcher from Oregon State, he's a convicted felon. I mean, he molested a 6-year-old, and he's still pitching for Oregon State. Like, somewhere along the way, this is incongruent. Like, it's not right. And I think anyone who's rational and reasonable with this whole thing can understand, like, this isn't right. So if you notice in the title today, I used hashtag #FreeFulton, and I'm hoping to get this started on social media today and on my show, and I want this kid to be able to play. Look, on the field for LSU, it's massive. I mean, in the piece, Fulton's dad admitted Kristian was going to be a 3 and done. He was going to go to the NFL after a year. So this would be his final year in LSU. But he's technically going to have to sit this year and hope to come back and have 2 years remaining in 19 and 20, unless if they can get this overturned, which I'm hoping they can. Look, on the field for LSU would be huge. We've talked a lot about their cornerback depth or lack thereof, and how this offseason has gone for LSU, missing on a couple of guys on National Signing Day. Of course, you lose your top 2 corners to the draft. I shouldn't say top 2, but you lose Terrence Tolliver. You lose Kevin Tolliver and Dante Jackson to the draft. And so, I mean, you're thin there. I mean, you got Greedy, who's a stud, and you hope Terrence Alexander, the grad transfer, comes in and is really good, but there's no guarantee of that. And they got a couple of young guys who haven't really done it, Kerry Vincent and John Trey Kirkland. If you get Kristian Fulton, I mean, that would be a huge get for LSU on the field. But to me, it's not even about that. It's so much more doing what's right by a kid in this instance, and understanding that there's a lot of gray, should be a lot of gray. Black and white, he broke a rule, but there needs to be areas of gray, because situations like this where a kid's got to sit for 2 years, it just doesn't make sense. So if y'all get on social media today, man, on Facebook or on Twitter or wherever you, man, use hashtag Free Fulton, because one thing I think is certain is that the NCAA, when put under a lot of pressure, will cave, because they have been a beacon of negative publicity over the years. And if this becomes another big time example of the NCAA doing wrong by a student athlete, I think they'll buckle. And so here's hoping a lot of people will read this and will get behind that and get Kristian Fulton eligible, man, because that he sat a year. I mean, that's enough, man. Like it's enough to have sat a year, to watch guys have a half dozen or more failed drug tests, like marijuana tests, and never miss a game. It's just not right. It's just not right, and that kid should be playing this year. So hashtag Free Fulton, use it. Kyle Gallo said, what was Savion Smith's situation? Wasn't involved in something, the same situation I was playing to come. Savion Smith was, so LSU, universities have their own penalty for drug testing, like for marijuana, and non-performance enhancers, recreational drugs. And Savion Smith was going to have to sit because LSU compliance was going to make him sit. And so he said, I'm not sitting, I'm going. So he went JUCO, and then to Bama. So that's the difference between a place like LSU that strictly monitors its student athletes and a place like Alabama that had Tim Williams never miss a game. He goes to the combine and people are like, whoa, you've had a bajillion failed drug tests, and then he drops him in the third round. So take that for what it's worth. One other thing I want to talk about here, Saints minicamp wraps up today. Of note, they signed Terrence West yesterday. I like this signing a lot. West has played with 3 teams since 2014. West announced it on his Instagram. Multiple outlets reported it afterwards. He's 27 years old. The thing I like most about this is there's a lot of tread left on the tires with Terrence West. You looked at Jamal Charles, and we talked about him yesterday, but Jamal Charles, 31 years old. He hasn't had a 1,000-yard season since 2014. His last 3 years combined, 50 fewer rushes, 300 fewer yards than his 2014 season. West came into the NFL in 2014, and he had a great rookie year with the Browns when he ran for about 700 yards. He was limited because of some injuries after that with the Titans and the Ravens. But you still feel like, again, you don't need 17 weeks or 16 games out of any of these players. You need 4 weeks. You need someone to come in and be able to get you through September until Mark Ingram comes back. Because when Ingram comes back, he's the dude. We all know it. So here's hoping Terrence West can stay healthy and he could be a dude. Keep an eye on Tim Hightower as well. I wouldn't rule it out that they signed multiple veteran backs to put him through the ringer in training camp to see who goes and wins the job. And supposedly Tim Hightower had a good day at Saints practice yesterday. He's on a tryout basis, so Tim Hightower's actually going through practice on a tryout basis in minicamp, whereas they just came in and worked out Terrence West. The other thing that's odd is DeMarco Murray declined an opportunity to work out for New Orleans. Man, if you're unemployed and somebody wants to give you an interview and you decline, but that's foolish. So I mean, he wants someone to hand him a job, and I just don't think it's going to happen for DeMarco Murray at this point in his career. And maybe he'll wait until injuries happen and someone's desperate for running back and they pluck him, but that seems odd, man, to be out of work, to have a team wanting to work you out and you say, no, I'm good. Brad Vicknair said thoughts on Traven Durrell's chances. Not good, just because that's a stock receiver room, but I'd love to see him stick on the practice squad for another year and see how all that plays out. Could he maybe win a 5th receiver job? Possibly, but he'd have to be a stud. I mean, because with Michael Thomas, with Ted Ginn, with signing up Cam Meredith, and then obviously the draft pick used on Traquan Smith, that's 4. And then you got 1 spot left. Is it Brandon Coleman? Is it Tommy Lee Lewis? Could Durrell step up and win that job, like the 5th job? Maybe. But I'd say it's a long shot at this point, but hopeful. So, all right, y'all. I hear Wayne Ferguson, what's up? Brandon Montanino, what's up? Derek Sanders, what's up? Appreciate y'all for watching. All right, I hear Drew getting up, so I'm going to go get him out of his bed. In the meantime, we'll wrap it up. Use hashtag FreeFulton on social media today. Let's get this rolling. And thanks so much to our friends at Boudreaux's. They got the Margarita and the Bloody Mary mix. They are proudly sponsoring Morning Scone. So find them on all their social media, please. Find them on their social media. Like them, comment on their stuff, and most importantly, go to the store and buy it, or go to boudreauxmix.com and buy it. Meantime, y'all have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow for Morning Scone.